So this ruin is my granny's house, Jamie. This is where she grew up. And down there is the barn and the byre. This was their garden. She was brought up by her grandparents. That's your great, great, great grandparents.
Whoa.
Kenny and Katie McRae. So Kenny McRae was a fisherman. Now this would be where Kenny McRae would have kept his fishing boat. It was a big boat, one that you went away to sea on for days on end. You can see the shore's been cleared. My granny used to love the cabin biscuits, and he would give her cabin biscuits. And my granny was known as Wee Barrable, and she grew up in this house. And they didn't speak English. They all spoke Gaelic. My granny didn't learn to speak English until she was 7 years old when she started school. They didn't have Wi-Fi or phones or even television. They had no electricity, no running water. They didn't even have a toilet, and there was no road here at that time. I asked her what toys she had to play with. You know what she said?
What?
We didn't have toys. She said they had enough to do with all the animals and the crofting and the fishing. They had an old cow called Pluke, and they used to chase it about the hill, and it used to fart as it ran, and it would run around. And they thought that was really funny. They weren't allowed to go down to the rocks there. It was dangerous. They were told if they went down to the rocks, the monster would get them. And as you can see, the rocks are quite dangerous. My granny wasn't allowed to play down by the rocks. If they went too far up the hill, the dragon would get them. And one day, she was away up the hill, she went too far up the hill, further than she was allowed, and she heard this terrible growling noise. And she looked all around and she couldn't see anything. And then she looked up to the sky, and there it was, this terrible beast growling and snarling in the sky, and it was coming for her. She got such a terrible fright, she ran all the way home, screaming and crying. The cows even got a terrible fright, and they all scampered off into the hill. And when she got home, she told the grown-ups, and they all laughed. The terrible beast she saw was an aeroplane. She had no idea there was such a thing as an aeroplane.
It feels a bit sort of home.
It does, doesn't it? I felt that. When I looked at that door, I thought, you know, there's a nice feeling. That wall was just gorgeous, isn't it? That was our ancestors that actually placed these stones in these positions. Okay, look, brambles growing at the front door. Me and Jamie are going to try it. We're going to eat them. We're still in the house.
They're okay.
The seeds aren't so good. Yeah.
I finished that one.
We're at my granny's house for something to eat then, eh? Sunday lunch at Granny's house. Well, great Granny's house. And so your great grandmother, Katie McRae, outlived her husband, Kenny McRae, and became the Cailleach. And the Cailleach is like the head of the family, a female head of the family. And it also means old woman. So she was the old woman of the house, she was the granny. She was in charge. And the Cailleach's seat would be at the far end of that room there, which means she had control of the fire, she could see out the window, and she could see who was coming in and out of the door. There was a fireplace at either end of the house. One in the living room, one in the girls' room. That room in there was the girls' room, that's where the girls slept. That end of the house was the living room, where cooking and everything else took place. And the boys, they slept in the loft. But on a Friday night, Uncle Donald would be having his bath in there, so everybody was chased out of the house while Uncle Donald was having his bath. Uncle Donald was engaged to be married, so he had a bath every Friday night, whether he needed it or not. Sometimes everybody would be chased out the other end of the house. If Katie the Cailleach McRae was making a sad scone, they were all chased out because the fire and everything else had to be absolutely perfect in order for the sad scone to work. I don't know how many generations of our family grew up in this croft, but my granny and her wee sister were the last generation to grow up here. Uncle Donald was going to build a new house. He had ordered up all the materials. He had a load of stuff to get over in Liverpool. And he set off with the wee barrow, and they collected all the supplies and overloaded the boat. They hugged the shoreline all the way through the Narrows because the sea was right up to the gunwales. He landed the boat and he got a rollicking. They took the stuff up and he feared that the dynamite might have got damp. He'd bought dynamite for blasting away the rock. You can buy dynamite these days. So when you get into the house, you get the dynamite set out by the fire. Uncle Donny was a toddler and his mother took him and the rest of the children out. Thought, oh, we've seen the dynamite, let's get out of here. So they all left. Uncle Donald sat in his mother's seat, sorting out the dynamite. Once he was done, he got out of his seat and gave his mother back her seat. She sat down, he sat down, he crossed the room here. Wee Barrable was throwing the tea leaves out the front door, and the whole house exploded. Uncle Donny and his mother got as far as the burn when they heard the explosion, having sat in the Cailleach Snee only minutes before. And he can still remember it today. Wee Barrable's sister, Shonnock, was over at the next Croft having a scone and a cup of milk on her way back from the schoolhouse. The whole loch heard the explosion. It could be heard in Liverpool. The blast was so powerful it took the whole gable end of the house down. Wee Barrable was blown out the front door into the garden here and seriously injured. Uncle Donald was blown straight through the living room window and into the garden and seriously injured. And Katie, the Cailleach McRae, was blown through the roof. Her body was found behind the house. The house was engulfed by flame. Locals ran to help them. They ran to and from the burn with buckets of water, but they couldn't put the flames out. Uncle Donny's father, Rory Mackenzie, ran to the shore and rowed his boat all the way to Liverpool to get a doctor, about 2 or 3 miles out in the loch, and then rowed all the way back with the doctor and then back up the hill here, and that would be their first medical attention. Uncle Donny, although he was a toddler, he could remember the scene and everyone trying to help, and Wee Barrable and Uncle Donald wrapped in blankets as they tried to keep them alive. They were then carried down the shore, and with the doctor they rowed across to the other side of the loch to wait in an ambulance, where they had a 60-mile drive in single track roads to the nearest hospital in Inverness. All the way in agony, knowing that the granny was dead and they were now homeless. A terrible day. And so the house has lain empty ever since that fateful day, February 1926. So it must have been a terrible blast. It must have been an absolutely terrible blast. Amazing that Uncle Donald and my granny survived it at all. And this house has never been occupied since. It's been lying empty for about 92 years now. That would have been the fireplace where the actual explosion happened. And Katie McRae would have been sitting down in that corner. There we have it. The story of Granny's Croft.